Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Portugal calling webinar, Understanding Portugal's D7 Residence Visa for Foreigners. And of course, our migration rock star is with us tonight, Gilda Pereira from EI Migration Services. Good evening to you, Gilda. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, Carl. What about you?
I'm very well, and you have a lot of friends here already, I think, who are watching the webinar. Some people I think you might be working with already, others who don't know you and who will find out more about you tonight. So by way of that, could you give us a very brief introduction to yourself and your company to get the webinar started, please?
I was an immigrant myself in the past, and I thought when I created this company in 2014, I created this because I wanted to help people that were relocating. As my background is law, I was always interested about migration law from different countries. So I got inspired by that, and I created A. Okay, A means it's an A and an I, immigrant in Portuguese. So it's for those that want to come to Portugal and also to support the Portuguese that want to go out of the country. Of course, that now we are mainly like 99% of our job is for people that are trying to relocate to Portugal and not going out as it was in the past.
Okay.
So that's our company. We have office in Lisbon and Porto and in Azores.
Fantastic. And we have lots of people here tuned in tonight, some from Portugal, most and many from the United Kingdom and the United States. So good evening to all of you. Very important tonight because we have been overwhelmed with questions in previous webinars. So a little tip for you, if you put a question in the chat, it's a good idea to put the word question before it in bold, so I can see that as I'm going through the chat and I can make sure that your question gets answered, because we do get people talking to each other and other information in the chat. So that would really help if you put question before your question. That will really help me to find your question. Gilda, we have something to say about managing expectations, which I think will come up anyway during the evening's proceedings and as part of the questions that come up in terms of timescale, because demand is very high. It's an amazing country. People want to come here, and we have the added dynamics drama of the pandemic, of course, which is causing problems. So we will return to that. The other thing I want to talk to you about before we really get started with the D7 is these various visas. If you could give us a very quick guide to the different kinds of visa. I mean, people are here tonight to talk about the D7, but they may be interested in other forms as well, and other people watching this subsequently might need to know. We've covered the D2 before. This is the D7 tonight. What are the various visas for coming into Portugal? Okay,
so when we talk about a D visa, D is a code for residency visa. Mm-hmm. So any residency visa is going to be a D visa, okay? Yep. And we have the D1, which is the working visa. Then we have the D2, and the D2 has two types. It can be the entrepreneur visa, or it can be the independent worker visa. Okay, for someone that does independent work for different entities, like artists, people from IT, they can apply for a D2 visa. Mm-hmm. Then we have the D3. D3 visa is for tech people that go to work for tech companies. For this visa, you need to have an invitation letter from an IT company in Portugal. Okay. Then you have the D4. I think I'm not sure. D4, I think, is the student visa. Mm-hmm. And the D5, I don't recall. It should be the family reunification visa, and then we have the D7 visa.
Okay, and that's the big one, really. That's why we're here tonight.
The most common visas that we work with are the D2, yeah, the D3, and the D7.
Okay,
those are the most common. All and right. if you want to have a resident permit, but you are not able to relocate to Portugal yet, you can always go for the golden visa. And this is a little bit funny because it's called the golden visa, but actually it's not a visa, it's a resident permit.
Okay.
Yeah. But so those are the different types of visa. If you go for a residency visa, it will always be a D type. And
That's
then
great.
remember, it's the different articles that you are applying.
Excellent. It just occurred to me to ask you that, why, we take these things for granted, don't we? Why it's called a D2 or a D7. Great questions are coming in already. Before we get to those specifics, can you give us a kind of overall view of how your process works, Gilda? And maybe let's have the timescale conversation now at the beginning before we get into people's specifics. So first thing, obviously, is for people to get in touch with you, and they can find you in our business directory. And I say it in a very English way. Forgive me, Gilda, when I say EI Migration Services. The only reason I say that is so that people can find it when they're looking for it in the directory. So forgive me for my pronunciation there. But yeah, so the first thing they do, they get in touch with you. What does the process look like in just very broad, brief terms?
The way I work is that I always set up a consultation first, because for me it's important to know the person, to know the family, to know the motives, to make questions about the income, about the type of work. Mm-hmm. So that and after the consultation I prepare a step plan, okay, that is tailor-made for this family, and it's prepared according to their needs and according to their profile. And here I need to I will apologize some people that I take longer to prepare some step plans than other, because some are very straightforward, but some I need some quiet and I need some study to find the correct way of doing things. And so I know that some people are waiting for the step plans for 1 week or 2 weeks now, but it's only because when I look at the scratch of and the notes that I took from the consultation, it's not a straightforward process, and sometimes I need to address previous questions, like I need to find out previous text questions that will implicate that process, and it's that's why it takes time, and it's tailor-made. And after I deliver the step plan, regardless the type of visa we are talking about, the first step is always to get the Portuguese tax number, the NIF. Okay, and then opening a Portuguese bank account, and then it will depend on the type of visa. If it's the D7 that we are talking about, we are going to get the documents about the income, and we will prepare the statements to the Portuguese authorities according to the law and according to the D7 requirements. Note it that the D7 requirements can change from consulate to consulate, although the law is the same, but consulates make like their own laws. Yes. So every time we have, and this is also something that sometimes takes extra time. If we are doing a process like for instance Argelia now, we need to know with the Argelian embassy what are the requirements for them. Okay. And only after they answer us, we make the step plan.
Okay. All right, so there's the beginning of the process, and the point being made, I think, that needs to be underlined here is you're about doing a good job rather than a quick job. This is very important, that people to manage the expectations of the process.
For me, it's very important. For me, it's very important, and I always say I cannot do a good work if I do it in a rush.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So it's very important that the potential clients and our clients understand that.
Yeah, and you're managing this situation. Obviously, the pandemic is slowing things down in terms of government bureaucracy. interest in Portugal keeps going up, which is fabulous to come to this wonderful country, and you are expanding your team to cope with demand.
That's true. And we have here Carla Moraes. She's always she's also present here. She's our new member from the D7 department and also the tax department. She just joined our team in January.
So team here tonight as well, Vanda, as well as the lady just mentioned. This is fantastic. Team is expanding to deal with this, but yeah, Gilda, let's underline that won't be rushed, okay? And nor, for that matter, will the Portuguese administrative system, the government systems.
Yes,
here, right?
because then we have for the NIF, we are fast preparing the things for the NIF, but then we have to send to the tax office.
Yes.
And we need to wait for them to do and to finalize the process. And that's not on our control.
Yep, indeed. Okay.
The same happens with the bank account. We open, we help people to open the bank account. And what we do is that we gather the main documents, and we do referral the clients to the bank, because to open a bank account as a non-resident and not being here, you need to explain the motives, and the motives is they are applying for a visa, a residency visa, but I need to make this note to the bank. And once the bank receives my email, it takes about 2 to 3 working days to contact the clients. And sometimes they are expected to be contacted in the same day. And it can happen, but sometimes it takes time, and you need to be prepared. I always say, this is Portugal. Everything is slow here. You will understand once you come here that everything takes time. And if it's a country that you are choosing to, to have some peace and to relax and to have a nice retirement, so you will begin to feel that with the process itself.
That's your first taste of it, folks. Okay, thank you, Gilda. Into the questions now. From Amit, thank you very much. Amit, sorry. If my wife is a German passport holder, do I, as a US citizen, need a visa, or can I just register after the 90-day period? Great question to get us started there.
So the German citizen needs to register at the city hall. It doesn't need to wait for the 90 days. The 90 days make mandatory, okay? Make it mandatory. But if this person has the NIF, the bank account, and a rental agreement, they can do it before the 90 days, making the registration at the city hall.
Right.
We also help with that. And now with the pandemic, it's very difficult to make these appointments. And once that person has the certificate, we can make the appointment in SEF to make the family reunion. So the spouse won't need a visa.
Great. I'm sure that's good news for you, Amit, for the first questionnaire this evening. Sorry, did you want to say more about that, Gilda?
Yeah. I was going to say that because of the pandemic now, and we have these restrictions to fly, this is a very important thing to be said. The family reunion, it's under the restrictions. So if you are an European citizen and you are a holder of a D visa, which is a residency visa, you are able to fly in with your family, even though if they don't have a residency visa, because they are entitled to the family reunion process. And that is one of the exceptions made on the restrictions.
Good to know. Thank you. Over to Eric J. Now, good evening to you, Eric. I understand the D7 is valid for 120 days from the day stamped in Portugal. How long is it valid for from the time it's initially approved in the US prior to me arriving in Portugal?
It starts the 120 days. They will start when it says valid from, okay? Because what happened? Some consulates will issue the visa without asking you anything. Okay, so it will be the date that they issue the visa. It's going to be the date that they start. Okay. Other consulates are going to look at your accommodation. So when your accommodation, the proof of accommodation that you sent will start, it's going to be the date that the visa, they will put on the visa. And some of them are very nice, like Washington, D.C., they will call you and ask, when do you want to go to Portugal? And then you say, oh, I'm thinking about going in May. So they will put May 1st.
Oh, okay. All right. So there is some flexibility with the more friendly consulates.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hope that helps, Eric. Sorry, Gilda, carry on.
But the general consulates, what they do is the day that they issue the visa, it's going to be the day that they put when the 120 days will start.
Right. Okay. And any allowance made for delayed travel because people can't travel because of the pandemic restrictions coming in?
No, they cannot travel, but if they have a visa, a residency visa, they can come.
Okay. All right, good. Question from Daniel, just to clear up on here, D2, D7 differences. Could you quickly go through those again, or there's, you know, some of the more specific bullet points about the D2 and D7 differences, please, Gilda?
Yes. So the D7 is more designed for those who have a good amount of savings and pensions and passive income.
Okay.
Like rentals from properties, interests, profits from companies. If you don't have this type of income, but you have a contract that you can work remotely, or you are an entrepreneur and you want to start up a company in Portugal, then you would go to the D2.
Okay. All right.
Most of the people that try to reach us, they want to go for the D7 because it's a easier process, okay, less bureaucratic one, and also according to the taxation, it's better than the D2 because the D2 requires that you pay the taxes on your income here in Portugal.
Okay. All right. We'll go into passive income now, if we may. We did have a question about that. Yeah, can I work from Penny, this is, can I work for a non-Portuguese company and use my income to qualify for passive income?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. As long as you have, it's good to show to the consulate that you are able to keep your job remotely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's good. Good to know. On the matter of taxation that you mentioned, always the NHR comes up, doesn't it? Marty P, thank you for this question. Can you speak about the NHR non-habitual resident situation as it relates to the D7 visa? Would there be a 10% tax on the passive income being used to obtain the D7 visa? And an obrigado. Very good, Marty.
Okay, so first of all, the non-habitual resident is not attached to a D7 visa, okay? It applies to any type of visa or any type of relocating process. It's the non-habitual resident, it's not a migration process. It's a different issue. It's a tax program, okay? And it's a tax program for everybody that relocates to Portugal. So sometimes people ask me, am I going to be eligible for the non-habitual resident? And I say yes. And they ask me, how do you know? Because you don't have an if. So if you don't have an if yet, you didn't live here in the past 5 years. So you can qualify for the NHR.
Very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's a quick way. That's the quick way of finding out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So almost everyone qualifies for that.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that everybody will take good use of that, okay? As far as it concerns to the 10% taxation, it only applies to the pensions, not to the other type of income, okay? Only to the pensions. And even though if the 10% are applicable to the pensions, there are ways that we can mitigate this taxation of 10% if according to the tax treaties between the countries.
Oh yeah, okay, all dependent on your country of origin.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Your question there about replies to emails, that's from Hodge. I'm sure Gilda's team will be all over that, and it may be something that went missing, and they will respond to that for you, I'm sure, from the comments there. Great question here from
I didn't understand. Was someone that sent an email and I didn't reply?
Yeah. How long will it take to hear from your office if we would like to work with you, please? For example, emailed last week and have not heard back. And a very understanding, sort of winking emoticon there. But so that's Hodge. So give us your email address if you, or PM that private. You don't have to give it to everybody, Hodge. Why don't you PM that to Gilda or me or Van?
No, I already took a note. I will sync.
There you go.
Look. And I also need to address an explanation to someone that is here that I'm holding a step plan to someone that is watching me here, but I'm working on it. It's going to be this weekend.
There you go. You know who you are, I suspect. Lara and Trish, this is a really great question, actually, and it relates to, dependence and family reunification. So Lara and Trish, the question is, if my mother, who is retired, applies for a D7, can I, as an adult, join her on that visa, or will I need my own D7?
As an adult, depending on what age, you can only join someone to the D7 if you are under 25.
Okay.
And you are studying. So you need to have both, be under 25 and be studying. Okay. So that you qualify for being dependent.
Right. Okay. But how would be
an independent visa?
And what about the reunification aspect of that? So if mum does become resident through D7, could she then reunify on that basis?
How old is she?
Well, you may wish to PM that. I know it's impolite to ask a lady's age. You might want to PM that.
No, because if it is under 25, and she doesn't work, she needs to enroll in a university and a course, because and then we book the appointment, and she needs to show that she's financial depending and that she's studying. Because if she's not studying, what the Portuguese authorities are going to say is, come on, you are a grown up, so go and work.
Okay, fair enough. There you go. I don't know which way around it is, Laura and Trish, or Trish and Laura there, but I hope that gets you started in the process of answering that for you. And a life plot twist there, enrolling on a new course maybe in Portugal. How about that? What is the cost of the tailor-made plan? Perhaps we'll come back towards costs at the end after we've kind of furnished this picture of the services that you offer. Lucille asked, question, I'm from Boston and my husband and I bought a house remotely in the Algarve in January. Amazing. We currently cannot fly there as tourists, and we had our application meeting for our D7 visa cancelled in January by the Portuguese Consulate in Boston, as they said they were temporarily suspending issuance of visas. Is there any way through EI Migrante to procure a visa on our behalf and bypass the consulate in Boston?
I don't know. I don't really know. I think that I need to address this to the other consulate that it's going to be near, because I didn't know that Boston suspended the visas, but I think that we can go through another one. I'll need to check with VFS. Okay. Carla, please take a note of that. We need to check with VFS if we can address process from Boston.
Okay, great. And Lucille there, I mean, what I'm hearing there, Gilda, is even though you've hit a brick wall, there may be room to maneuver through other means if the brick wall is just in Boston. Okay, Carolyn, great question again. Thank you. Going back to passive income now for the D7, what is considered passive income? This is a great sort of general answer for people for the D7. Bank interest, dividends, and pensions only, or do you need to show annual passive income equal to or more than the national minimum annual wage? What if you have considerable savings investments that you can draw on at any time?
Well, that is a common question. If you have good amount of savings that show that you are able to live and sustain yourself in Portugal, it's good, but they really want to see that on a monthly basis you have a source of income coming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So some people tell me, okay, but I have savings, I don't want to withdraw now. I know that this can be a little bit squared, but I already know how the consulates think, okay? And they will need to combine those, the savings and the passive income.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that addresses Let T Speak's question as well, which says, if you're not planning to work and instead live off savings, will that suffice if we can show proof that we have more than enough in liquid savings outside of investments? So it is that liquidity, isn't it, and being able to draw on one's savings, which would be a key determinant here by the sound of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's important to put a certain amount into a Portuguese bank account, you know?
Yes. Okay. Do you want to say a bit more about that now, Gilda? Because that's, that's just good practice anyway, isn't it?
Yes. And now it's even mandatory. You know, last webinar.
Yes, indeed.
I told that I always advised the clients to do that. So that the consulate could not come and say, yeah, you have this money, how are you going to prove that you are able to put it in Portugal? So now, actually, since November, in the United States, San Francisco and Washington, D.C., they made it mandatory. They won't even take your process if you don't have a Portuguese bank account settled here.
Okay. All right. Good. So that's turned from an advisory into a requirement now.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't fully understand this question, but you might, Gilda, because that's why you're here. What is the probability, this is from Penny, of being approved for the D7 visa, but then being declined once they apply for the 1-year residency?
Oh, it's very low. It's very low. Once I'm going to explain why. Because for the D7, you go through a process that your process is going to be analyzed twice. First from the consulate, and second from CEF. So CEF is going to have a word and like the final word on the approval. Mm-hmm. And then when you go to CEF, they just want to make sure that you are in Portugal, you have the Portuguese bank statement, you have your NIF, and you have a place to live. So the lease agreement or the proof that you bought the property here is going to be very important for this resident permit to be granted to you.
Yeah.
All the other documents that you submitted to the consulate, you don't need to bring them again with you because they are in their system. They can access to them. If they have doubts, if they ask, oh, but your income, you just tell them it's on the system, go and check. Don't be lazy.
You can't say that, can you? Oh, you'll say that. You'll say that on behalf of your clients.
Okay, yeah. We say no, it's in the system. Go and check. It was already approved. It's in the system.
And believe me, Portuguese people have a way of being able to talk to each other like that. That doesn't come naturally to some of us British folks. There have been conflicting reports in FB groups. Okay, here we go. The misinformation and difficulties that people will inevitably encounter on social media. But this one in particular is about, in Facebook groups, about the proof of accommodation requirements. This is a good segue. Thanks for this, Carolyn. Some people say that when they got approved with Airbnb reservations, but I have read that this is no longer acceptable. I'm not sure it was ever, was it, Gilda?
No, it was.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
happens? It's that because the consulates now have much more work and they are having a lot of demand for Portugal, the requirements got a little bit tight now. Now they need to show a 1 year or 6 months lease agreement.
Okay.
Airbnb is no longer acceptable, and you need to have the NIF and the bank accounts.
Okay.
With minimum amount required, which is 12 times the Portuguese minimum wage.
Yep.
8,000 euros. But now the resident permit, it's for 2 years. So I'm already guessing, this is not on the law, okay, but I'm already guessing that because they will grant you the resident permit for 2 years, they are going to ask for 16,000, which are 24 months of Portuguese minimum wage.
Okay, and is that, if it's a couple, is that for the first person and then it's a fraction for the second person?
Well, it depends. If they both are applying for the visas,
yeah,
it should be per person.
Okay.
If one is applying for the visa and the other is making the family reunion after working in Portugal, it's 50%.
Okay. Good,
But also, Carl, when I look at the values of the savings and the income that people tell me, I also advise the amount of money that they should have into the Portuguese bank account. For instance, if they only have the savings and they don't have the monthly income, I will tell to put more in the Portuguese bank account.
Okay. And that's why you need Gilda, because she understands how this works from dealing with so many cases in a way that you wouldn't just from approaching this yourself for the first time. The second part of Caroline's question is, isn't a 1 year or longer registered lease or a letter from a Portuguese person who confirms that you are staying with them now required? Is that permissible?
No, unfortunately, we had a case. This doesn't apply to all the consulates, okay? Some consulates are still accepting the sponsorship letter for someone that lives in Portugal, but like San Francisco, last week we had a client calling us that they didn't accept the process because of a sponsorship letter. And to be honest, it was the first time that it happened. We were not expecting. We had to be very fast to find a rental agreement for this person.
Yes. Okay. And so just to clarify, then, what is the lease that's required, and would it be okay if you obviously can show ownership of your own property?
Yes, of course. If you own a property, that would be okay.
Okay. And then the minimum lease, just to clarify, that's required.
6 months.
6 months. Okay. Anand,
it can be very difficult because, as you know, in Portugal, the landlords hardly accept leases for 6 months.
Yeah. What do they want, generally speaking?
1 year.
1 year. Okay. Anand asked a good question here. Is there any downside to getting a NIF number and opening a bank account while waiting to take the next steps, e.g. due to the pandemic? And this is thinking about, you know, how you mentioned with the NHR. If they get a NIF, might they compromise themselves if their plans change later?
Well, when you get a NIF, you need to make sure that you already want to come to Portugal, because you already have a NIF, you are already registered at the tax office, and we are going to be your sponsors. Meaning that if you don't come, we are going to receive your mail and correspondence from the tax office forever.
Okay. Right. Yeah, and that's a good point, actually, Gilda, isn't it? Is that, you know, this isn't a way of hedging your kind of global residency bets, is it? This is about making a decision to come to Portugal, because that's going to make a difference in your application, isn't it? If it's thought that you're not that bothered about being here, I'm sure it's looked upon more favorably that people proactively and really want to come to this country.
I'm sorry, Carl, I didn't get your question.
The sense I got of that question was that, you know, the person might be hedging their bets a little bit, might be thinking, I might move, I might not move. What's going to work well here is to say, I'm coming to Portugal and I really want to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, the government don't want to think you know that it might be one of a range of options.
And that's why, and look, that's why they make it mandatory to have a NIF, because they really want, when they made that mandatory, was to say, we really want you to be committed with the country. We really want you to become taxpayers in the country.
Yeah.
So if you are serious about this, show us the NIF.
Show us the NIF. Okay.
Show us the NIF and show us the money in Portugal.
Okay, and well, this is Anand's question. I hope we have got that right for you, Anand, because the end of the question is, thinking of any tax implications or expiration of the NIF. NIFs don't expire, do they? I don't think.
No, they don't expire. What happens is that it's a very old thing, like in Portugal. I'm going to tell again. It's very slow, everything. That's why, I make this joke. That's why we eat snails in Portugal. It's probably the only country in the world where we eat snails. Everything is very slow. And what happened? About 10 years ago, the tax office would issue the NIF number, and then you would get a card with your NIF number.
Yeah.
But then, because of the crisis, they stopped issuing the card.
Yes.
And they issue the paper that says this will expire in 4 months, because you get the card. But now for 10 years, people are getting the paper. They are not getting the card, and they didn't change that wording in the NIF. Incredible. 10 years we are talking.
Okay.
They didn't make that change. So we keep being asked over and over again, is my NIF going to expire? No, it's not going to expire. But it says on the paper, yeah, it says, but it's not going to expire.
Yes, it's those certainties of life, isn't it? Death and taxes, and the NIF comes into that. It is not expiring. I really appreciate, Sesoj, that you want to provide individualized and personalized assistance. With that in mind, if we hope to move to Portugal in December 2021, January 2022, COVID allowing, of course, do you think the timing for a D7 will still be possible to get if we start working with you now? Great question, because this is responding to how people can pace themselves when they're working with you, Gilda. What do you think of that timescale?
I think it's doable. It's great. I can deal with that.
All right, excellent. Gail, where is it best to find the step-by-step process for D7? You're here, Gail. We're just beginning our learning, and many of the questions are beyond our current level. Okay, fair enough. I think probably what we need to do is sketch out on our websites the step-by-step. And Jerry, can I get a nod from you on that? That we
yes.
would, yeah.
Yes, I'm very keen to do that.
Yeah, we will do that for you, Gail, and we'll take care of that. And of course, in association with Gilda, who you'll find in our business directory. Brilliant. Can I apply, says Amy, for the D7 while I am visiting Portugal, or do I have to apply from the UK? Can it be done as a visitor? And Amy asks.
No, and I'm going to explain you why. The only entities that have the power to grant visas are the consulates, and we don't have Portuguese consulates in Portugal.
Okay, interesting, right? Excellent. And yeah, that's all new territory in the UK, of course, because we're post-Brexit now, and it will be a D7 is one of the options for British people. So no, Amy is the answer to that. So you need to go to the Portuguese Consulate in UK. Michael, is it true that the Portuguese consulates abroad are now closed? Now, you'll know this, Gilda, even in countries with little corona, with the excuse of lockdown in Portugal, even though Portuguese civil service is open here. So what's the situation with consulates, open or not?
It is true. It is true. These people, it is true. They say, oh, there is a COVID, there is a lockdown in Portugal, so it's an excuse for them not to work. And some of them are closed. In Brazil, for instance, they closed because they suspended the flights between Portugal and Brazil. Okay, the flights are suspended, but there were processes in the consulate, and there were processes that could be done while we are in the lockdown, but they just decided to close the consulate. And in India, some of them, in India, it's very particular now, because they say that they are closed, but if you send them an email and explain the situation, they say, okay, so send us the papers. And then we send them the papers, and they decide if they will receive your request or not.
Okay, so the point there is that we are working in quite a grey area. It's very subjective at the moment. Okay, yeah. So praying for the lockdown lift off soon as best we can. Okay, Daniel asked, in terms of passive income, how does it work if your assets are all in liquid form, i.e., you don't have a pension or rental income? Is that permissible? All liquid assets?
As I told, in that case, it will depend on the amount.
Okay.
It will depend on the amounts, and it will depend on the amount that this person will put in the Portuguese bank account.
Okay, but thank you for that, Gilda. A bit of clarity here for Jeff in the UK. I'm going to be building a house in Portugal and would like the freedom to visit on a regular basis, which means that I may need to be in Portugal for more than 90 days. I don't plan to become a permanent resident for the foreseeable future. I believe that I can apply for an extended visitor's visa. Is this possible? This is a situation I think a few Brits would like to hear about.
Yes, it is possible. Not at the moment, though. But
yes, but no.
Yes, but no, not at the moment. Okay. What happens is if you come as a visitor, then you have 90 days, and then you can extend it for another 90 days.
Okay.
You can extend it. What happens now is that they are not receiving appointments at all, not even to tourist visa extensions, but they made a law saying that everyone that was in Portugal as a tourist would remain legal until the 31st of March.
Okay.
And this is important because I know that there are many British people that came here and then were not able to go out, and they are concerned about it. But they will be fine until the 31st of March because it's on the law. And I believe that they are going to postpone that date.
I'd sort of kick it down the year a bit so that it will remain favourable for Brits in that situation.
For everybody.
It's for everybody. Okay.
For everybody.
All right, sorry to be a bit Brit-centric there. I do get accused of that from time to time. Tammy, good evening to you. On the NHR, when Gilda says it applies only to pensions, does that mean 401k income does not apply?
It applies.
It does apply?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Simple there. Lara, definitely not under 25. Okay, so different plan then. Kat, we live in the US, but are considering retiring to Portugal. Says Kat. My husband will be working remotely. We want to come for 3 months to check things out. Which visa would we need? They're basically tourists, aren't they? If they come for 3 months.
Yes. But it's not possible at the moment.
Another yes, but no. So yes, you can come for 3 months, but not at the moment. Fantastic. Another question from John. If my wife and son live in Portugal with D7 and I work as a merchant mariner on a ship every other month, can I live in Portugal every other month using my USA passport, staying only 26 or 27 days at a time? What do you think of that, Gilda?
Yes, I already know John. We already talked, and yes, he can. I told him. What can happen is that when the time comes to renew his resident permit, they can make questions why he was not in the country for the 6 months in a row or the 8 months interpolated per year. Okay, which is a requirement, but. Right. They may when the time comes to renew after 2 years, they may address this question, and then he has a right to explain, and that explanation would be based on John's case on his work.
Yeah, and it prompts the little caveat, doesn't it, to keep a very comprehensive paper trail in Portugal. So you'll need to prove this.
His family, his home, his family is going to be based in Portugal.
Yes.
He has a remote work that he goes back and forward. Yeah. But he can justify that. I had a case like that before, and they granted the renewal.
But presumably, it's good to keep the records to prove that situation, right? This is what I've learned in Portugal. Is the paper trail is very important. So if it's always good to have an email or all the paperwork as opposed to a telephone conversation, or as well as, so that you can prove these things. Jeff, thank you for your question. Do you have to be drawing a USA Social Security and private pension, or are other documents proving entitlement to these incomes sufficient for the D7?
Well, there are many different kinds of documents, like rental agreements, agreements that you have, and you are going to receive money from loans that you granted. So many types of documents that show that you will have income are okay. It's not only pensions.
There you go, Jeff. Andre, good evening to you, Andre. Is it required for both husband and wife to be in Portugal to go to the CEF appointment to get approval for the resident permit from CEF? So do both parties have to be there in a partnership, or can one represent both?
No. If they both want the resident permit, they need to go the both, because they need to take the biometric data and the pictures and all that.
And you can only do that in person, folks. So yes, Andre, it's got to be both of you for the biometrics. Penny,
they can do it in different times.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Excellent. All right. Question: If you're in the process of buying property, will that count as an address? Paul is asking. So I guess you don't, strictly speaking, own it at that stage, but how would that be viewed if you're in the process of buying something and you made a strong offer, for example?
If you're buying a property, if it's good for the process,
yeah, and by the sound of it, Paul is he's in the process of buying it. He doesn't own it yet.
But the promissory purchase agreement will do.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And also it will be good for the process, because it shows that he's committed to move to Portugal.
Okay. Excellent. That's good news. David and Kate, what evidence is required for the D7 visa meeting with the local, in this case, the UK consulate? So they're asking, I mean, it's the same, isn't it? All the things you've just described. If you're going to whatever consulate it is, you need the NIF and the bank account and to show your income.
We actually don't know, because they change a little bit the requirements for requirements. But if we want to be conservative and we want to have a chance of success, I would go with the most that I could. Yes. And I would prepare your process in such a way that they cannot say you're missing this or you're missing that.
Yes, bulletproof. This is what Gilda does, folks. Mm-hmm. That's why you need a pro, because you're looking at all the worst case scenarios and building a bulletproof case, aren't you? Yes. Rather than just winging a prayer and taking the minimum of documents along. Perfect. Okay, Penny, do you need the 6-month or 12-month lease agreement for stage 1 or stage 2 approval?
Well, it depends on the consulates.
Okay.
Some consulates you need for the stage 1, like we talked today, like Washington DC and San Francisco. They now require a 6-month lease agreement. But so it will depend on the consulates, but definitely for the stage 2, it will be mandatory.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. There you go, Penny. Ernest, just a very quick question from Ernest. Good evening to you, Ernest. Does Gilda work with golden visas?
I do work with golden visas in partnership with Reis & Pelicano, which is the law firm that works with us.
Okay, and you'll have seen in our collection of webinars that we have spoken to Daniel Reis of Reis Pelicano, and you can also get in touch with him through our business director.
There was a new law that came in force last week, mm-hmm. And it's interesting for people that are looking for the golden visa. It's interesting to address their questions now, because rules will change in January 22.
Okay, all right. So many variables. We do have a new hashtag trending on Twitter now. Hashtag show us the NIF. That came from here, folks. Remember where you heard it first. Question in connection from Caroline with opening a bank account and getting a NIF before applying for a D7. What if your visa application is then refused? You can close a bank account, but you can't cancel a NIF.
That's true. The NIF is forever.
Oh, a NIF is forever. It's a bit like a diamond then, I guess, isn't it? All right. And I'm so sorry. This is the moment where I apologize in the webinar for being overwhelmed with questions. I may not get to all of them. I'm realizing at this stage. The obvious thing to do is to get in touch with Gilda direct and create a relationship with Gilda and her team. The other thing you can do, if you need a bit more sort of information, a little fragment of information that's going to put the jigsaw puzzle together, try our forum as well, expatsportugal.com/community. That's our forum. And there's an absolute wealth of knowledge on there from a fabulous community. So that's another good place to get help as we go into the final minutes of this webinar tonight. Gilda, are you able to stay in for our more social part after past? Or have you got to go off? Okay, good. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So there will be a bit of mingling tonight.
Some other questions?
Yeah, of course. You know, we've got 6 whole minutes, and we need to include in that your costs, on which there is a discount for premium members of expatsportugal.com. So make sure you're a premium member to qualify for that. But another question from Marty P. If you get a D7 and move to Portugal, but you have to return to your home country for an emergency, such as looking after a sick family member, how long can you stay out of Portugal before your D7 is invalid? Good question.
Okay, so if you are talking about the D7, the D7 is valid only for 4 months, okay? So you come to Portugal into the first 3 months, and you will have your appointment with SEF in, let's say, 3-4 months. So the D7 visa grants you 2 entries in the country. So you can go out to look after this person, but then you need to come for the SEF appointments, for the resident permits, okay? Yeah. If you are not able, you can postpone it twice, I think, twice at least. And then after you have your resident permit, you can be away, but knowing that if it's more than 6 months, they can ask for justification. But actually, for health and family reasons, they will accept that. Okay. They will renew it.
Glad to hear that. Okay, so before we go to timescale and cost, let's just get a quick question in from Julianne. Did you say that one can use salary from a foreign company employment as passive income? Is that similar to the e-residency program for digital nomads, freelancers, entrepreneurs, which is the D2?
Yes, yes.
All right, and that's helpful to Lara and Trish as well.
That can be used as a D2, okay, as for the D2, and can be also used for a D7 if combined with a good amount of savings, okay. It's only a plus. Yeah. For the D7, it's only a plus. For the D2, it's the main thing. All right.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's conclude this particular segment.
Knowing that if it's going to be a D2, if it's going to be a D2, then you need to issue receipts from Portugal and pay income in Portugal.
Yes, the tax in Portugal, of course.
That's the main difference.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So Gilda will be sticking around with her team members here as well who can help. But just to finish this particular segment, this more formal part, Gilda, what are we talking about, generally speaking, in terms of timescale, and what does it cost people?
In time?
Yes, time first, timescale first. I mean, roughly speaking, because as you said, that there are variables in this which are not under your control. But yes, just to give people a rough idea of how long the process might take, so that they can factor and plan this in.
Okay, once we start with the first consultation, until we actually have the visa ready, it will take around 3 to 4 months.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
And then once the visa is there, let's say 4 months from now, you have to be ready to wait for another 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that makes 6-7 months.
Yeah.
And the visa is granted, and in 7 months you come to Portugal. And then for the resident permit appointments, you should wait 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
So roughly we are talking about a 1-year relationship. So if you don't like me now, you better not get married, because it's a long-term relationship.
I can't think why, Gilda, anyone would have taken the dislike to you tonight. You've been amazing as usual, and we've worked you hard with the questions. There might be some more in the more social part that's going to follow here that we're not recording. But then costs. As I said, premium members get a discount. What is, roughly speaking, costs for this process as well?
So how I prepared the step plan, it's different steps. So for one price for each step, okay? Yeah. So it will give freedom to the clients to choose the services that they will want or they will need.
Yeah.
What I think it's a basic package for relocation will cost around 1,500, 1,700.
Okay.
That is the NIF, the bank account, the visa, and the resident permit. And then, of course, we have other services aside that you can add to that.
Okay. And as I said, 10% discount for premium members of Expats Portugal. For this particular segment, is there anything you want to include that we've missed that's very obvious, Gilda?
I don't think so.
I think you've done an amazing job tonight.
Very prepared for the questions. Some of them already know me, and it's a pleasure to see you again. Some people are waiting for replies for me. I know that, but I need to mention something. It's not an excuse, but it's been very, very difficult what's happening with us, with Brazil, because we had many people with visas that were approved and could not move here. And we had many companies, because we do the business, the IT business a lot. We do the D3 a lot. And many companies got their contracts terminated because the employees could not come. Okay. And this was in the last 2 weeks, and it's been very, very hard for us to work and to give, to try to explain to the companies that we did our job, but the frontiers are closed and there's nothing we can do, and then they are losing contracts because of that. Okay. This lockdown really, really hit us in a very hard way, and that's why we've been delayed with the answers on the emails and the step plan. It's really been hard. We've been working a lot and having a very few rest and very few sleep because of that.
Well, we know this about you, Gilda, your incredible attention to detail and how hard you work. And it's horrible to hear of those particular stories, but I know that you have many fans in our community who are loving working with you and that year-long process that you describe. And thanks for being here tonight. Really appreciate it, answering all these questions. You work really hard, and you're going to hang around for a bit in a more sociable sort of way now among the community here. So thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.